Hey everyone! Today we are going to go over our first lesson in economics, which is looking at the Guide to Economic Reasoning and Choice. Before we get to that though, I just want to briefly go over a couple of things to know about the course. So when you're beginning your coursework each week on Schoology, make sure you are always starting with the weekly guides. This not only tells you the learning targets for the week, but it tells you what assignments and notes you'll be working on each day, and it will also give you my availability for the week as well. So make sure you're always starting out with the weekly guides. Make sure you are also looking at the syllabus in Schoology. This breaks down how you will be graded in the course, what will count as summative work. Our first summative will be coming up later this week. After our live lesson on Thursday, so we'll talk more about that then. But one thing I wanted to point out right now are tests. When we start tests in here, they will be open note and open resource for however long we will be doing online learning. So because tests will be open note and open resource, there will be no retakes on tests. Now, tests will usually be open for at least a day, so you'll have time to look over your notes, use any resources to help you answer the tests. So just make sure you're answering each question carefully and that you're completing the test before it closes in Schoology. Attendance for the course. Make sure that you are making progress each week on assignments. If there's any assignments that are due throughout the week, let's say you have 2 formative assignments and 1 summative, make sure you are making progress on that, because on Fridays that's when attendance will be taken. So if by Friday you haven't done anything in the course all week, you will be marked absent for the entire week. So just make sure you're doing that. And one last thing I wanted to point out on Schoology is the daily schedule. So this is the schedule that we'll be using for as long as we are online. So it's a little bit different from what we're used to in a normal school day. As you can see here, all of the hours start a little bit later and they're a little bit shorter. So first hour will start at 9, second hour will start at 10, third hour will start at 11, so on and so forth. So whenever we have any live lessons for the course, make sure that you are referring to that daily schedule so that you can go to the WebEx room during your scheduled class time. All right, so the information that I'm going to go over here, you will need to know, so it might be a good idea to write down this information in your notes. There's actually 6 steps. Sorry, it says 5 steps right there. But these notes will help you complete the activity that's described on the last slide of the screen. And these notes that I'm going to go over, they are also in Schoology as a PDF. So if you'd rather just go through the PDF on your own rather than listening to the video, go for it. So before we get to the Guide to Economic Reasoning, we first need to understand what economics actually is. It's the study of how people, businesses, and governments try to satisfy our unlimited and competing wants through the careful use of our relatively scarce resources. Essentially what this means is that the things that we want are unlimited. Right? There's no limit to the amount of things one person or a business or a government wants. However, the money or the resources that we have to get those things are limited. So economics studies how do we satisfy the things that we want that are unlimited with the limited resources that we have. And in order to do that, we need to start with the Guide to Economic Reasoning. So there's 6 steps to this guide. The first one is obviously that people choose. Whether or not we realize it, we are constantly making decisions. We have to choose between one thing or another. With our choices come costs. So, regardless of if we're making the best choice for ourselves, those choices always come with costs. The third step in the guide is that people respond to incentives. Why are we doing something? Essentially, what are we going to get out of it? What is the reward, or what punishment are we trying to avoid with the choice that we are making? The fourth step is that people create economic systems that influence individual choices and incentives. So this is looking a little bit more at our society in general, and we'll get into this a little bit later on in the video. Step 5, people gain when they trade voluntarily. So when you are willingly trading with someone, you're doing it because you are getting something out of it. And then step 6 is that people's choices have consequences that lie in the future. So the choice that you are making today, there will be consequences of that choice in the future, good or bad. So just giving you a couple of examples of each of these steps. So number one, again, people choose. We're constantly making decisions whether we know it or not. Here's a scenario. Let's say you and your family live in Alaska, 25 miles away from the nearest town. As a family, you are concerned that a natural disaster is looming in the future. So you decide to put all of your energy, time, and money into making your home fit for blizzards, hurricanes, earthquakes, and a zombie apocalypse. Now you're deciding to put the choice that your family is making is putting everything you have, all the money, all the time, all the energy into preparing for the end of the world. Are you making any other decisions based on this choice? Yes. By choosing to put all of your eggs in one basket, you are also choosing not to do something else. The money that you're spending could be spent on investments. It could be spent on vacations or starting a college fund. All the time that you're putting into this, you could be spending your time playing sports, watching TV, going on vacation. So by making this choice, you are also choosing not to do something else. Number two, people's choices have costs. When we choose something, we give up something else. So not necessarily only monetary costs in the form of money, but also costing us maybe other experiences. So let's say you have a family of 4 and you need at least $2,000 a month to cover expenses, and you don't make more than $2,000 a month. But you get into a car crash and the cost to fix that car is $700. Think about the options that you have. You could choose to fix the car or not fix the car. If you fix the car, obviously it's going to cost you $700, but it's also going to cost you money taken away from your other expenses, like paying for clothing, paying for insurance. However, if you choose not to fix the car, you now save that $700, however, you don't have a car to drive anymore. So when you make a choice, there are more than one cost to that decision. Number 3, people respond to incentives. So people will react based on any rewards that they might receive or punishments that they might be trying to avoid. So let's say during the last 3 weeks before your final econ test, you spend 2 hours each night studying. Your incentive to do this could be a few different things. Maybe you just want to pass the course, and in order to pass the course, you have to pass the test. Or maybe you want to get an A in the course, so you're really putting in time to do it. Or maybe you're trying to avoid punishment from your parents because you know you might get grounded if you don't do well in the course. So people respond to incentives. Number 4, people create economic systems that influence individual choices and incentives. So we are governed in the United States by written as well as sort of unwritten rules. Different economic systems have different rules, and as the rules change, so do incentives and choices. So looking at the United States, let's say for example, you want to get rich like Steve Jobs, the creator of Apple. So you start building and selling iPhone knockoffs called iPhones, like eyeballs. They are identical in every way, but they cost less than iPhones. So according to the idea that people create economic systems that influence our choices, would this be possible in our country? Short answer is no. You could try to do this, however, Apple will probably sue you for copyright infringement. So the economic system that is created here, these attempt to influence our choices. So you could make this choice, but it probably wouldn't be the best choice to make. People gain when they trade voluntarily. So we tend to produce more when we're doing what we do best, when we want to do something. For example, let's say your iPad just broke, you don't have iPad insurance, and you have a friend that knows how to fix it. Your friend needs help with his economics homework, and you currently have an A in the class. Who is gaining from the situation? Well, both of you are gaining from it. So you will trade your expertise in economics for your friend's expertise in fixing iPads. Both of you will gain from this. Your friend will get help with economics, but you will also get help with your broken iPad. So both of you are gaining because you're willingly trading with each other. And then finally, people's choices have consequences that lie in the future. Not just today, but they can also have long-term consequences as well. Let's say you decide to sleep in every day and miss your first hour economics class, as if we were in regular school. Now, obviously, some short-term consequences of this is that you're missing what's happening each day. However, some long-term consequences is that you may fail the class. It's going to be hard to pass a course that you never go to. So, our choices that we make have consequences, both short-term and long-term. Another example, just to hit this home, is that let's say you're on the basketball team and you make time every day to practice your free throws for at least 15 minutes. Now, a short-term consequence of this is that you're taking 15 minutes away from practicing other skills. However, some long-term consequences could be the fact that you might be better at shooting free throws because of the actions that you're making, and you may miss less free throws, during an actual game. So it could also benefit you in the future. So let's apply these steps in the Guide to Economic Reasoning to some facts about Americans. So, why are we a nation of couch potatoes? When you watch TV, when you go on the internet, it's easy to see that Americans admire people who look slender and physically fit. However, only about 23% of Americans are getting enough exercise, and about 32% of American adults are overweight. And the percentage of children who are overweight has doubled since the early 1970s. So the question is, why do an increasing number of Americans, the same people who admire the trim, slender look so often featured in our media, why do we exercise too little and eat too much? We're going to apply this in economic terms. So what I'd like you to do for each of these 6 statements here is to pause the video, take a couple of minutes, and decide if each statement is true or false. On the next slide, we'll go over them together. So number 1, Americans don't know that exercising more and eating less can help many people become healthier. That's false. We know that in order to be healthier, we need to exercise more and eat less. Number 2, exercise and a healthful diet are free. This is also false. While exercise might be a little bit more free, eating healthy in the United States actually is a little bit more expensive than eating less healthy. In jobs that involve physical work, exercise is like an extra benefit. That is true. So if you work a manual job, an extra benefit from getting that job is that you're getting some exercise. Number 4, the price of food has been increasing. This is also true. Over time, food, especially healthy food, has become more expensive. Number 5, passive modes of entertainment like TV or video games are popular with Americans. This is true. I'm sure you guys have spent some time watching TV and playing video games over the last few weeks. And number 6, common jobs in the past like mining, farming, and manufacturing were safer than today's jobs in technology, law, and finance. That is false. Jobs today, desk jobs, working in tech, working in law, or finance, are physically safer than jobs like mining, farming, and manufacturing. So, this is the mystery that we're going to solve. Why do an increasing number of Americans exercise too little and eat too much? So what I'd like you to do is pause the video here and apply the Guide to Economic Reasoning to the couch potato mystery in your notes. Answer each of these 6 steps, and then we'll go over them on the next slide. So answers. Number 1, what is the choice that Americans are making? Americans are choosing less physically demanding jobs, and we are exercising less. The cost of our choice is obviously our physical health and well-being. Number 3, what are our incentives to do this? We have new forms of entertainment today, passive forms where we're not really moving around, TV, video games, and the types of jobs that we have access to today are less physically demanding. The economic system that the U.S. has created, it creates a job where we don't work at physically demanding jobs anymore. Now, when we look at the trade-offs, essentially less physically demanding jobs that we are getting now, but we have worse health as a result. That's a trade that we're making. And finally, some consequences in this choice is that it's a decrease in our overall physical well-being. So solving the mystery you can see here. So we're choosing new jobs in a changing market system that have resulted in less exercise. So we now enjoy new forms of passive entertainment, and the trade-off of physical activity would include giving up time that we now spend watching TV or playing video games. So what I'd like you to do in Schoology is to complete the assignment called Economic Reasoning Practice, applying the guide